The rain fell hard that night, making the roads slick and shiny. Ryan Carter was driving home after a long day of work. His mind was full of stress, and his phone kept buzzing with messages. Suddenly, a bright flash of lightning lit up the sky. Then, everything went black. When Ryan woke up, it wasn't in his bed. It was in a hospital room. Machines beeped around him, and he couldn't move or open his eyes. The doctors said he was in a coma, a deep sleep his body needed after the car crash. They didn't know if he'd ever wake up. In the same hospital, Emily Thompson worked as a nurse. She was young but had already seen so much sadness. Still, she always smiled and stayed kind to her patients. Emily believed something many others didn't. She thought people in comas could still hear. Every day, Emily brought books to read to her patients. Some were exciting stories, others were sweet or thoughtful. For Ryan, she picked special ones. Stories about courage, hope, and never giving up. Sitting by his bed, she read aloud in a calm, gentle voice. "Ryan," she said one day, holding a book, "this story is about fighting for what matters, even when it's hard." As she read, she noticed little things. Sometimes his breathing changed when she paused. Other times, his fingers moved slightly. Maybe it was just her imagination, but Emily felt like he was listening. One evening, after closing a book, she leaned closer. "Ryan, you're stronger than this," she said softly. "I know you can hear me. Just hang on." She had no idea how much her words meant. Not just to Ryan, but to both of them. Every morning, Emily arrived at the hospital with a new book in hand. She believed stories had power to heal, to comfort, and to connect. For Ryan, she chose tales that were full of heart. One day, it was The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, a story about bravery and hope. Another day, it was Charlotte's Web, a tale of friendship and kindness. As she read, Emily imagined Ryan traveling with her into these worlds. She pictured him walking through magical lands or sitting under a tree, listening to the wisdom of talking animals. Sometimes she even added her own thoughts. "You know, Ryan," she said one afternoon while reading Charlotte's Web, "this spider reminds me of my grandma. She always taught me that even small acts of kindness can change someone's life." Her voice filled the quiet room, soft but steady. Outside, the city buzzed with noise, but inside, it was just Emily, Ryan, and the stories. Over time, Emily began to notice more signs that Ryan might be listening. His breathing would slow when she paused, almost like he was waiting for her to continue. Once, when she read an exciting part from Treasure Island, his fingers twitched slightly, as if he were gripping the edge of his seat. "Did you feel that?" Emily whispered to herself, her heart racing. "Are you really in there, Ryan?" But not every moment was hopeful. Some days Emily felt discouraged. The doctors kept saying they didn't know if Ryan would wake up. His family visited less and less, too busy with their own lives to sit by his side. Emily hated seeing him so alone. So, she started sharing pieces of her own life with him. "My little brother called me today," she told him one evening. "He's starting college soon. Can you believe it? Feels like just yesterday he was stealing cookies from the jar." She laughed softly, then sighed. "I wish you could meet him, Ryan. He'd probably tell you all about his dreams of becoming a chef. He's got this big heart, just like—" Her voice trailed off. "Just like you might have," she thought but didn't say. One day, Emily brought a new book, a biography of Helen Keller. It was the story of a woman who overcame blindness and deafness to inspire millions. As Emily read, she felt a strange sense of connection to Helen's teacher and Sullivan. Emily wanted to reach someone who seemed unreachable. By now, months had passed since the accident. Emily's shifts were long and tiring, but she never skipped reading to Ryan. To her, it wasn't just a routine, it was a promise. Promise that she wouldn't give up on him. And deep down, she hoped he wouldn't give up either. It was a quiet Tuesday morning when everything changed. Emily walked into Ryan's room, carrying a copy of The Alchemist. She had been saving this book for weeks, knowing its message about following your dreams might resonate with him. "All right, Ryan," she said cheerfully, pulling up her usual chair. "Today's story is about chasing what makes your heart sing." I think you'll like it. She opened the book and began reading, her voice steady and warm. But as she reached the second chapter, something unusual happened. Ryan's hand, his fingers that had only twitched before, moved. Not just a little movement, but a deliberate stretch, as if he were trying to reach for something. Emily froze, her eyes wide. "Ryan?" she whispered, leaning closer. "Can you hear me?" For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, his eyelids fluttered. It was faint at first, almost unnoticeable. But soon his eyes cracked open, squinting against the light. "Oh my God!" Emily gasped, jumping to her feet. "Doctor! Someone! Please come quick!" The medical team rushed in, surrounding Ryan's bed. They checked his vitals, asked questions, and shone lights in his eyes. Through it all, Ryan stayed silent, his gaze wandering around the room until it finally landed on Emily. Where am I?" he croaked, his voice rough from disuse. "You're in the hospital," one of the doctors explained gently. "You've been in a coma for nearly 6 months." Ryan blinked, processing the words. Then, without warning, he turned back to Emily and spoke again. "The boy found treasure beneath the sycamore tree," he rasped, his voice trembling. Emily's breath caught in her throat. Those were the exact words she had read just moments ago, from the alchemist. How do you know that?" she stammered, her hands shaking. Ryan looked at her, confusion etched across his face. "I don't know. I just remember." The room fell silent. The doctors exchanged stunned glances, while Emily felt tears prick her eyes. All those months of reading to him, wondering if he could hear. Now there was proof. He had been listening all along. Over the next few days, Ryan began to recover more fully. His voice grew stronger, and his memories started returning, fragmented and blurry, but enough to piece together what had happened. What shocked everyone most, though, was how much he remembered from Emily's stories. "You read to me every day, didn't you?" he asked her one afternoon, his tone soft but filled with emotion. Emily nodded, still finding it hard to believe. "Yes, I thought maybe hearing stories would help somehow." Ryan smiled weakly. "It did. Your voice kept me going, even when I wasn't sure I wanted to wake up." His honesty took her by surprise. For the first time, she saw past the wealthy businessman label. The man lying in front of her was vulnerable, broken, and searching for meaning. "I owe you so much," he added quietly. "More than I can ever repay." But Emily shook her head. "You don't owe me anything. I was just doing my job." Still, deep down, she couldn't help but wonder what this meant for both of them. As the days turned into weeks, Ryan grew stronger. Physical therapy helped him regain his strength, and speech exercises improved his ability to talk clearly. But it wasn't just his body that was healing. His spirit seemed lighter, too. And much of that change came from Emily. Every day after her shift, she stopped by his room, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. They talked about everything. His childhood growing up in a wealthy family, her struggles juggling nursing school and part-time jobs, and the books they both loved. Slowly, a friendship began to form. One afternoon, as Emily sat flipping through another novel, Ryan cleared his throat nervously. "Emily," he started, "I've been thinking about how much you've done for me." She looked up, surprised. "You don't have to thank me again, Ryan. Really." "No, listen," he insisted, his voice firm but kind. "You gave me something no one else did during those months, hope. You treated me like a person, not just a patient. And I'll never forget that." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "I want to do something for you. Something big." Emily frowned, shaking her head. "I don't need anything, Ryan. Helping people is what I do." "I know," he said quickly. "But let me help you now. What's your dream? What's the one thing you've always wanted but couldn't afford?" Emily hesitated. She wasn't used to talking about herself, especially not with someone like Ryan. He came from a world of luxury cars, private jets, and endless opportunities. Her dreams felt small in comparison. I've always wanted to open a community center," she admitted finally. A place where kids from low-income families can go after school. Somewhere safe, where they can learn, play, and feel supported. Ryan's eyes lit up. That's incredible, Emily. Why haven't you done it yet? Money, she said simply. It costs a lot to rent space, hire staff, buy supplies. I've saved some, but it's nowhere near enough. Ryan leaned back in his bed, a thoughtful expression on his face. Then he smiled. Leave that to me. Before Emily could protest, he grabbed his phone and made a call. Within minutes, he was speaking to architects, real estate agents, and nonprofit experts. By the end of the week, plans were already underway for Emily's community center. A 3-story building in the heart of the city, complete with classrooms, a library, and even a playground. Emily was overwhelmed. Ryan, this is too much, she said one evening, tears streaming down her face. I don't know how to thank you. You already did, he replied softly, by believing in me when no one else did. But despite her gratitude, Emily couldn't shake a nagging feeling. There was something about Ryan's sudden generosity that felt complicated. As construction began on the community center, Emily found herself spending less time at the hospital and more time overseeing the project. It was exhilarating, watching her dream come to life, but also exhausting. She barely had a moment to herself. One evening, while scrolling through news articles online, something caught her eye. A headline read, Carter Enterprises under fire for alleged fraud. Her heart sank as she clicked on the article. According to the report, Ryan's company had been accused of unethical practices years ago, manipulating contracts, exploiting workers, and cutting corners to boost profits. Though no charges were filed, the scandal left a dark cloud over his name. Emily stared at the screen, her mind racing. Was this true? Could the man who had given her so much have done such terrible things? The next day, she visited Ryan in his private recovery suite. He looked better than ever, dressed in casual clothes instead of hospital gowns. But when she walked in, her expression must have betrayed her turmoil because he immediately noticed. What's wrong? He asked, sitting up straighter. I saw the news, she blurted out, holding up her phone. Is it true? About your company? Ryan's face went pale. For a long moment he didn't speak. Then he sighed deeply and nodded. Yes, he admitted, his voice heavy with regret. It's true. My company, I wasn't always honest. I made decisions I'm not proud of. Decisions that hurt people. Emily felt her chest tighten. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was ashamed, he said quietly. I've spent months lying here, thinking about my life, about all the mistakes I've made. When I woke up, I promised myself I'd do better. That's why I wanted to help you with the community center, to make amends. Tears welled up in Emily's eyes. Part of her wanted to believe him, to trust that he truly wanted to change. But another part couldn't ignore the weight of his past actions. How do I know you're serious? She asked, her voice trembling. How do I know this isn't just guilt money? Ryan met her gaze, his eyes filled with sincerity. You don't, he admitted. Not yet, but I'm asking you to give me a chance, to let me prove that I'm not the same person I used to be. For days, Emily wrestled with her feelings. She thought about all the good Ryan had done for her, but also about the harm he might have caused others. In the end, she realized something important. Everyone deserves a second chance, even someone like Ryan. Emily decided to give Ryan a chance, not because she fully trusted him yet, but because she believed in the power of redemption. If he truly wanted to change, she would stand by him and help him take the right steps. Over the next few months, Ryan worked tirelessly to make amends for his past. He reached out to former employees who had been mistreated, offering apologies and financial settlements. He donated large sums of money to charities supporting workers' rights and education. And most importantly, he started mentoring young entrepreneurs, teaching them how to build businesses with integrity. You're doing great, Emily told him one evening as they sat together at the nearly finished community center. I can see how hard you're trying. Ryan smiled faintly, though there was still sadness in his eyes. It doesn't fix everything I've done, but it's a start. It's more than a start, Emily said firmly. You're proving that people can change if they really want to. The grand opening of the community center came sooner than either of them expected. On the big day, the building buzzed with excitement. Kids ran around the playground, parents toured the classrooms, and volunteers introduced themselves to the crowd. A local news crew even showed up to cover the event. Standing on a small stage, Emily held a microphone and addressed the gathering. This place wouldn't exist without someone who believed in me when I needed it most, she said, glancing toward Ryan, who stood off to the side. But it also exists because of all of you, because we came together to create something beautiful. When the ceremony ended, Ryan approached her, looking nervous but hopeful. Do you think maybe someday you'll forgive me? He asked softly. Emily looked at him, seeing not just the man who had made mistakes, but the man working so hard to fix them. She smiled. I already have, she said. From that moment on, their friendship grew stronger. Emily continued running the community center, pouring her heart into helping kids and families. Ryan stayed involved too, using his wealth and influence to support causes that mattered. Together, they proved that compassion and second chances could transform lives, including their own. As the sun set over the city, casting golden light onto the new building, Emily felt a deep sense of peace. Life wasn't perfect, and neither were people. But sometimes, all it took was one act of kindness, or one story read aloud, to spark hope, healing, and a brighter future. If you enjoyed this story about kindness, second chances, and the power of compassion, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more heartfelt tales that inspire and uplift. Let us know in the comments, what would you do if you were in Emily's shoes? Your thoughts matter, and we'd love to hear from you.